Okay, so now we're going to start with the exercise from the defined benefit pension plan, which is going to be much more complicated to report and to account for. And in this exercise, I have a methodology that is really useful in terms of helping you to find the right numbers that you need to account for. So my suggestion is that you follow my methodology. I think it's quite simple. It's just a table that I think it will help you to elaborate and to find the numbers that you require to do this exercise. So you can follow me. I will go step by step, and I will start with the table because the table is super important to find the correct numbers that we are going to use in our exercise. So I will start with the name items because this is where I'm going to write what we are doing. That means like in this step, I'm registering the expense. In this step, I'm registering blah, blah, blah. So this is items. And then we have three columns in this next step that I will call the journal entries, right? So this is the what we call asientos contables, right? So this is the what I will report in the accounting. And here I will write the accounts that I will be using. So first I will account the expense, right? The pension expense, right? So this is the account for expenses. Imagine this is a journal entry, this is the expense. Then the next one, I'm going to register the account called cash because it's literally the account for cash. So that means that if at any point I need to modify cash or to account for cash, I will write something in here. And finally, I will have the asset or liability in terms of the pension fund, right? I think I need to explain this one a little bit. And when we have a defined benefit pension plan, um, the company sends the money to an external organization that manages the fund, right? That manages the money. So we are going to report that in here. I will write in here the memo record, right? This is kind of like the notes. And this part of the table is not going to affect the journal entry. I will explain also in a second. So I will write two columns. One is for the obligation and the other one is for the assets. So I was telling you that the organization sends the money from the company sends the money to an external um, fund, a management fund, and that money is received in here in the asset, right? So this column is or accounts for the assets of that fund, right? So if the company pays 10,000 pesos, that 10,000 pesos will appear in here as in assets, okay? Usually, what will make sense is that if you promised your employees to retire with 10,000 pesos, that means that you have an obligation of 10,000 pesos and you will need to have an equal amount of assets. I hope it's getting clearer. I know that maybe at this point you are super confused, but don't worry, it will get clearer step by step. So this column reflects the money that is in the fund. So imagine that you have 10,000, okay? I will make the numbers in a second. In the best or in the best case scenario or in the ideal scenario, you have also the obligation because you promised your employees that they will retire with $10,000. That's why it's called defined benefit, because it is defined the amount of money that they will take. So you have an obligation of paying them 10,000 at the end, and you have enough assets in your fund of 10,000. So that's great because you're in a balance, okay? But remember that this is not money that the company has, that is not in the inside of the company. This money is managed by another organization, another fund, and a fund manager, right? So because of that, and to avoid confusion, I will write it or I will use the gray color, right? Just to contrast that this part is not money that the company has. So this money is not reported in the financial statements of the company. So if you have this, if you have an obligation of 10,000 and you have assets of 10,000, that means that here in this account, asset or liability, you are neutral. The company in their own statements doesn't have to report any liability or asset. That means that the organization doesn't have to pay more or is not happy because they have more. I will change a little bit. So imagine that you have 11,000. That means that that in the fund there is more money than the money required to fulfill the obligation. That's nice, right, for the company. So that means that in here this company will probably have a positive 1,000 pesos. So that's why I say it can be asset or liability. Imagine the opposite. Imagine that it has 9,000. So if that is the case, here I will write minus 1,000, okay? Because it reflects that this company has a liability of 1,000 because they have an obligation of 10,000 and they only have 9,000. So that difference is in here. I hope it's a little bit clearer. Don't worry if you are still confused at this point. I think and I hope that by doing the exercises, it will get clearer. Also remember, you can come at any time to the Zoom class and I can explain everything. So I will go step by step. Uh, um, um, uh, in, writing the items and accounting for the items, and the items are related to the instructions from the exercise that are in here. So let me start with the first thing. The first thing that I have is the initial balance on January 1st of 2019, right? Sorry. This is the first thing that I know. And I know that I have assets equal to 100,000 pesos. So, or dollars, whatever it is. And I also have an obligation of 100,000. Okay, so this is the initial balance. Okay, I'm not writing anything in here. Sorry, in here because this is only if I need to record something in the accounting. So far, this is only the initial balance. Okay, the saldos iniciales. So I am only reporting the balance and that's it. Let's continue with the next thing that I need to report. I am done with these two, okay? I will write in bold just to remember that I am done with these two. The next thing that I need to report or that I need to account is the service cost. The service cost is the fee that this organization is charging me, right? Because they are managing the fund, so they are charging me with a fee. So here I will register that. I will register the service cost or the service fee. And what do I need to do? I need to record that. I need to record this cost. So I will write it like this. I will write an expense of 9,000 because it's an expense, right? It's something that you need to pay. And in this case, I will not register it as cash because usually you don't pay in cash that fee. What happens is that your obligation increases because now you have to pay for that fee too. It's like a more liability in the fund, right? So now the obligation increases. This service cost or this service fee is not paid in cash. Instead, it's reported as an obligation in here. The next thing that I need to report is the interest expense. And I will explain you how do I calculate that. The reasoning behind the interest expense is that this obligation grows every year. It reflects the value of money in time. So it's not static. It's not 100,000 pesos forever. This 100,000 pesos uh, needs to become refreshed every year. And what or which which rate do you think that we will use to calculate the value of 100,000 pesos by the end of the year 2019. Well, we are going to use this one. As you can see, it says discount and investment rate. So the discount rate is the one that we use to recalculate the obligation. And the investment rate is the rate that we will use to recalculate the assets. I will explain that one in a second. So what I am going to do in here is that I will simply multiply the balance in the obligation times the discount rate, and it will give me 10,000 pesos. I will write, well, I can keep that, and I'm just going to change the format to make it look nice like this, 10,000 pesos. Okay, so this is what I will do in here. And what do you think I need to do in the journal entries? What do you think I need to report in here? Of course, an expense, right? It is an interest expense. So this reflects that over 1 year from January until December, because what we are doing in here is the annual adjustments, the annual journal entries. So what I am doing in here is recognizing that by the end of the year, my obligation has grown 10% and it is in here and in here, okay? So far, so good. I hope that you are getting it. Now that I have the interest expense, now I need to register for um, the interest income, okay? So I did register the expense. So now I need to register the income. So what I will do now is to do the same thing, but for the assets. And you need to be careful because sometimes I can give you two rates, a discount rate and an interest, an investment rate. Usually they are different. In this case, just to simplify things, I use the same, but usually they are different, so you have to be careful. So multiply the balance, the saldo inicial, from January and multiply it times the investment rate, and you will also get 10,000 pesos, right? So this is the amount of money that you get in 1 year. And how do I report for that? Well, it should be reported in here too. Instead of being positive as an expense, what you can do is you can write minus 10,000 because this reflects that it's a decrease on the expense. It's like an income is less expense, right? So what we can do in here just to make it even clearer is to write expense slash income. If it is positive, that means that it's an expense. If it is negative, that means that it is that it is income. Okay, I hope it's getting clearer. And finally, the last thing that I need to do, because I think so far I am done with these two, with the annual service cost and with the discount and investment rate. I already reflected these things. Now I need to reflect the funding contribution for the employee, right? This means the amount of money that the organization is paying to the fund. This is the funding contribution by the employer. So this is the money that the organization pays to the fund. So let's register that. If the company pays to the fund, what do you think will happen in here? What do you think that will reflect? Well, of course, this will increase the asset, right? Because the fund has more money. So it will be 8,000, this 8,000. And what do you think will be in the journal entries? Well, the cash will reduce, right? Because the company has to pay this 8,000 pesos in cash. So it will be minus 8,000 pesos. So I am done with the funding contribution. And finally, the next thing that I need to do is to calculate the benefits paid to the employees, right? To the employees that are already retired. Here, that is the meaning of this, that I am paying to the retirees 7,000 pesos. So this is like paying to retirees, people that are already retired. And this one is very simple because is the company paying from their cash, from their bank account? No, they are paying from this, right? From the fund, right? So what I need to do is to reduce the obligation in minus 7,000 and to reduce the assets in 7,000. Why is this? Because I am paying them, I am paying to retirees 7,000. So I am done with that obligation. But at the same time, I am paying them with the money that I have, right? So I need to notice that. And fine, so I am done, right? I am done with everything. Finally, the last thing that I want to do is to get the totals from this thing. So to get, in order to, or why do I need to get the totals? Because it will help me to get the journal entries, right? So I am going to write the journal entries or totals from these three columns. So what I will do is literally add up everything. Okay, so it will look like this. It will look like this in here from these two. So that means that I will have to reflect an expense of 9,000 in the left, and then a decrease of 8,000 in cash. It will be on the right. And what do you think will happen in here? And this is something very interesting, because I haven't done anything to reflect if the organization has more responsibilities or less responsibility in terms of the fund. So what I will do is to calculate the balance at, in this case, it will be December 31 of 2009. So to calculate the balance, I will also do adding up all the numbers from here and here. And I think I did something wrong. Sorry, yeah, I did something wrong in here. I need to write minus because I am paying, right? It's minus because I am paying this. I am paying to retirees, so this is minus 7,000. So as you can see, I have this difference in here, this difference of, I have more obligation, right? I have 112,000 as obligation and only 111,000 as assets. So that difference of -1 has to be reflected in here as this, right? Minus 1,000. So with this, I am done with the exercise because now I can finally make my journal entry, and the journal entry will look like this. It will be an expense of 9,000 with a pension expense, you can call it like that, pension expense of 9,000. And then on the right, you will write cash, 8,000, because you are reducing the cash. And in here, you are going to register a liability, a pension liability, like this, of 1,000 to reflect this, okay? So by doing this journal entry, you are showing that you had an expense of 9,000, that you paid 8,000 in cash, and that you still owe to 1,000 to the pension fund. Because remember, ideally, you will have to have this even, right? Like if you have an obligation of 112,000, you will have to have enough assets to pay for that obligation. So I think that for today, this will be the end. In this exercise, we are going to have more complications because we're going to continue writing this. But I think so far we are okay with this. I hope in the next class we're going to do more exercises, more complications, but this is the basics. So I hope that you understand. If I go back in the Excel file, this one, it's super easy. I think you shouldn't have any problem solving this. It's super easy. And this one, you just need to be very careful. Usually people make mistakes like the one that I did, like this one, that I forgot to write minus 7,000. Just be careful with that. And I don't know, other things like maybe you multiplied incorrectly. Remember, multiply the discount rates times these things. So just be careful. I will give you an activity so you can practice what you have learned today. This is very technical. Remember, this is the methodology that focuses on reporting sustainability through financial statements. So that's why we are doing journal entries and all the calculations and all that. In the next classes, we are going to learn also how to report this in a qualitative way in an independent sustainability report. So I hope that you like this topic. It's interesting. There are a lot of complications. Even in the activity, it has different things, new things. So if you don't understand something, you can write me or you can come to Zoom to solve that. So see you soon.